Hello friends, it's Sunfish. I'm back, and I am also playing Three Houses, so which is like two surprises in one. So if you know me or have had any dealings with me in the past, like my whole life, you'll know that I'm really slow at playing games, and I'm also really like finicky about spoilers, and I apologize for everything for all the times that I've begged people to like, no, don't spoil me on anything, don't say anything, but like I'm also going through the game at like 2 miles an hour, so to make up for it, I decided I'd kind of have a little bit of fun with it, and since I have not been spoiled on most of the post-timeskip designs, I figured I would try to guess at what they're going to be. So these are kind of sort of predictions, but as you'll see, I'm not taking it all that seriously. So I already did Claude just because I've seen him. He was in the trailer. I've drawn him actually before, but I did kind of like a from memory drawing with him, so it's not super accurate. But for everybody else, I have not seen them. I have no idea what they look like after the time skip. I'm starting with Golden Deer because that's the house I picked. Those are the characters I'm the most familiar with, but I could do the other houses also. We'll see how this goes. So yeah, I am allowing myself to look at like the pre-time skip designs just for reference, so that the characters look sort of like how they look. But while I am recording the audio here after the fact, I'm just going to kind of talk about my process. What you're seeing, you'll see a little bit of iteration in the drawing, and I kind of try different things and see how it goes. And I was having a lot of fun with it. I tried to make it kind of an interesting, engaging live recording, but it just wasn't, like, I didn't have the energy to keep that up the entire time. And I actually had to take a lot of breaks with it. So, par for the course, I guess. So I'm starting off with Hilda. And the idea I settled on with her was, like, her... I get the feeling based on what people have told me that, and people have been, like, they haven't been spoiling things, but I think that's kind of made it worse in a way, because they haven't been spoiling specific things, but I think people have been messing with me. I don't know, like, so I just have heard a lot of like, oh, it's gonna get bad, it's gonna get, really, really rough coming up, brace yourself, be ready for it. So I'm just thinking, like, a lot of people are gonna die probably, especially like unnamed NPC characters. All these poor kids' siblings and parents, and it's just gonna be a bloodbath, I think. Again, I have no idea. I genuinely have not played through. I wouldn't be, I mean, I don't know, I guess you could be like, oh, that happened, but why would I do that? Like, it's just, then I would just say, like, these are alternate designs for the time skip, so, I really haven't, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'll probably play through it pretty soon. I'm on, like, chapter 9, but, anyway, with Hilda, she talks a lot about her older brother, kind of, most of the, I guess, work or the brunt of the duty of her house kind of falls to him. He's like a general, so I mean, he's gonna die. I'm almost positive, because otherwise they'd have to like make these characters and we'd have to meet them and stuff, and I don't know that that's gonna happen. I think there's gonna be a lot of dead siblings, but at any rate, the whatever work was previously falling to him is now going to fall to Hilda, so she's got to like actually do stuff for the first time in her life, and that's sort of what I was going with, is like this professional looking but like also falling apart at the seams, but in kind of a, I don't know, more amusing way. It's not like, I don't know. I can't see her character going too depressing or dark or anything after the time skip. I just don't feel like they've built up enough, and it would read as like, I don't know, just very tone whiplashy. Like, there's some characters who come across as comedic who, like, they can pull that off, I think, more, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but Hilda, I don't see changing too terribly much. I do think she'll lose the pigtails, because that's a pretty childish look, but other than that, I don't think she's gonna change in demeanor too much. And on the other side of that coin, we have Raphael, who, so you know how I was talking about, like, dead siblings? I don't know. They're really setting up his sister to be this kind of, is morality pet? Is that the trope? But it's not really morality pet, because he's already a nice guy, but, like, you know, it's just the kind of thing where it's like, it's so sweet and it's so wholesome, and everything apparently goes to hell, so I'm assuming that also is going to go to hell. So that's sort of the, I guess what I was going for with Raph. Well, the main thing I was going for with redesigning, brainstorming a post-time skip design for him, is that I think he's got to have, like, a full beard, right? He can't not. If you're gonna give a full beard to one character, it's gonna be him, right? It has to be. That's pretty much what I went with, but it's like a little bit like a depressed, like, world weary kind of beard, and yeah, I will be the first to admit that I basically just ended up drawing Hector again, so I really tried, you guys. I tried to differentiate him, and he's gonna look a little funny looking, and I, like, with the proportions, once I finish the line art on this, but, like, I go back later and fix it, so, I drew him with, he's got, like, a little locket, which has a picture of his dead sister, probably, and it's gonna be so sad, man. But maybe she'll still be alive. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? But I think it's, like, and that goes back to what I was saying with Hilda. Like, I don't think there's enough serious or enough gravity to Hilda before the time skip to warrant her going to, like, dark or depressing afterwards. But with Raph, there's definitely a lot where, I mean, outwardly he's very jovial and friendly and happy-go-lucky, but you'll get these moments of, like, every time, you know, the conversation veers to his parents, he will just kind of shut it down and, you know, let's talk about something else. I don't want to think about that anymore. Like, so it's clear there's like pain there still. He's a character who is, they've built up to have this kind of, like, inner life that's darker than what's on the outside. So I think we're gonna see a little bit more of that outwardly with him. I don't think he's gonna totally, like, veer off into, like, Dimitri territory, but just judging on what little I know happens with Dimitri, but you know, he's not quite gonna be the same, like, chipper, always thinking about food and training, and, you know, he's almost the team cheerleader kind of. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna quite be like that after the time skip. But that was the main thing I did to differentiate him from Hector, was, like, that little tuft of hair in the front. He's also got a little ponytail in the back. But I guess this is as good a time as any to talk about just like my general impressions of the game so far. Again, I'm not very far into it, but I really like what I've seen so far. Like, to the point where I almost can't believe that we got this game from this studio. Like, my optimism for this game was there just because I'm kind of an optimist with a lot of things, but like, it was so cautious. But I did say at one point, if this game was gonna be good, I thought it would be because Nintendo is treating Fire Emblem now like one of their big series, and it can't be, pulling the same kind of nonsense that it had been pulling circa Fates, where, I guess you could say it was kind of experimental, but like, it's the sort of thing where clearly decisions were being made that I don't think if it were up to the executives at Nintendo they would be necessarily comfortable with, and in fact there were some things that they actually told them to tone down. So given that I think they were probably more active in the whole process this time, I think that may be why Three Houses comes across as a more down-to-earth kind of game so far. But it is also risky in a lot of ways. Speaking of which, I'm drawing Lysithea now. And I got my first prediction out of the way just then, which is that she's going to be a ghost because she's going to be dead. I said it, only NPCs and like people's off-screen siblings and parents were going to be dead, but like they're building up Lysithea to be like she's well, okay, I'll talk about Lysithea now. I'll put a pin in the what I think of Three Houses generally for right now, because I got to talk about Lysithea. But so crests are like your genome, right? It's like or it's a particular gene that you have. Like, it's DNA. It's the fantasy equivalent of gene sequencing and stuff like that. What Hanneman is doing essentially. And the people turning into monsters and stuff like that is like mutation, radiation, sort of accelerated by magic, which I really dig because I loved the like holy weapons as nuke metaphor in Binding Blade. So they're kind of circling back to that whole like atomic nuclear radiation allegory with the weapons, which is cool. But at any rate, crests are DNA. There's all this genetic coding kind of with it. I don't mean coding like the genetic code of DNA, but I mean coding like literary coding. So Lysithea's got 2 crests, which is weird. And my first thought was like, I didn't think very much of it when I first saw that, but then in her support, she's all, I don't have a lot of time left. I don't have time for this. I'm running out of time. Like, so it's like, okay, she clearly is dying or has like a shortened lifespan or something. So it occurred to me like, oh, she's got some kind of essentially like recessive rare genetic illness, and she knows her days are numbered, and so that's why initially I thought like, oh, she'll just like straight up be dead by the time 5 years have passed. But I had to like draw somebody, so I had to draw her with everybody else. So like she's just gotten more sick. She's in a wheelchair because like we haven't seen that yet, and there hasn't really been cause to see that. But also like in my game, she's a warlock class, and so she can just like psychically levitate. So I feel like I was almost wanted to go for like a Professor Xavier kind of vibe where she can I don't think he can do telekinesis, but there's this great latent psychic ability And I don't know, I just imagine she could just like push herself around with her magic powers and stuff. That's why she wanted to learn magic so bad. It's to push around her own wheelchair. But I think that would be, I don't literally think they're going to put her in a wheelchair, but you know, it's, I guess, it's shorthand for like having this character who is super sick, but you know, maybe this is like her last hurrah or her final, she wants to go out with a bang kind of thing, which is similar to Aran from Shadow Dragon, or from New Mystery, or Mystery of the Emblem, who is another character you get as he's dying, and he, like, his final wish is he wants to go out and battle, he wants to die a hero, and so yeah, I mean, I could see them maybe doing that same thing with Lysithea. All right, on another very different note, we've moved on to Lorenz, and you'll notice I'm very carefully avoiding the hair, because at this point in drawing, I have no clue where to go with it. So Lorenz was the character for whom I busted out my historical costume encyclopedia. And I was just having fun, like, looking through it and trying to get ideas and stuff, and so you're gonna see a bit of that as we go through, but he's one where I want to talk about, like, where I see his character going, because that inspired a lot of where this design ended up going. Not this one. This was, I was just like, what's the worst hairstyle I can give him? A faux hawk. Let's do it. And then I decided against that. So I kept saying to myself, like, it's gonna either be really good or really bad in turn, like his hair. And I think I actually kind of hit on somewhere in between. So to expand a little bit on where I think his character is gonna go, or I don't, this is a guess. This is, I don't know what is more likely than anything else. My ability to kind of temper my expectations with fiction is very poor. I have a very hard time predicting, like, realistic things, but I can go pretty wild with predictions and then, like, hope that maybe something like that ended up happening. But, like, what we have so far, from what I've learned, again, I'm about on chapter 9, I did his paralogue too. But, and also more relevantly, I did Raph and Ignatz's paralogue. And in that one, we learned that House Gloucester is, like, doing all these shady business deals and, like, basically putting hits out on merchants and, like, using monsters to kill merchants who are heading over to Claude's family's house to do business. And so, like, they're pulling all these shady business deals. But it kind of seems like Lorenz really is not aware of it. He's got this rosy idea, no pun intended, this rosy ideal of what it means to be a noble and everything. And so we could think that he, like, ends up getting disillusioned by all that, and, like, all of his ideals come crashing down once he realizes that his house is, like, doing all this bad stuff. No, I think he's going to go completely the opposite. I think he's going to be like, fine, if you're not going to be a real noble father, then I'm going to go off on my own and show you what it's all about. And so he ends up being this, like, Scarlet Pimpernel kind of character, except it's not an alter ego. He just does this. And I should have drawn him with a mask. Oh, that would have been smart. Anyway, I don't know that he'll actually have a mask. I don't know where I stand on that as a prediction, but yeah, I think he'll just, like, kind of go around and like, instead of rescuing other nobles, because I don't know what the state of the alliance is going to be. It could be in complete disarray, and maybe he does need to rescue some other nobles. But I don't think it's going to be like a people's revolution or anything. I think just like it's going to be more, you know, shady nonsense coming from the other nobles and from his house. But, you know, I could see him like going out and rescuing merchants, and he talks a lot about like a noble's duty is to protect the common people and all that. And so I just think he's going to go like whole hog with that thing. Like he's going to double down on his ideals rather than being disillusioned and being, you know, just also yet another shady nobleman. So yeah, I guess this is like actually a prediction that I kind of am looking forward to if it comes true, but if not, you know, I'm enjoying how politically aware he is. I think this is a character who pretty much surprised everybody. We were expecting, or most people I talked to were just expecting him to just be kind of a shameless flirt, and he's not in most of his supports. It seems like there's more of the politics and the I don't know, yeah, like what it means to be a leader and that kind of thing. So he's interesting. I'll be interested to see where he goes. Next up is as you can see, Marianne, and or as you can guess, maybe. And the faux hawk on Lorenz was a joke. It's not on her. So I need to explain myself on this one. Marianne's like far and away my least favorite out of everybody. She's I get that. I get what she's doing with her whole constantly apologizing, self-loathing shtick, and I guess I'm sure some people find that hashtag relatable. Oh, I hate myself too. Depression jokes. Like, whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's a generational thing. I can't get into that kind of humor. I don't think that those kind of jokes are good. But, you know, whatever helps you cope, I guess. But at any rate, like, it comes across as super obnoxious to me. Her whole, like, oh, I'm just terrible, and I need to be out of everybody's way, and I messed everything up again, and it's like passive aggressive almost. It's just annoying. So, I think she, long story short, is gonna learn to stop being passive aggressive and be more aggressive. So because she's like also really, she's got some beef with her adoptive father, who she always frames as her adoptive father and not just her father. So, like, something happened with her previous house, right? I think I might have to go back and read her bio again, but is she an orphan? Are her parents dead? Anyway, I think she killed her parents, but, like, in a fit of berserker rage, because based on her critical hits, it kind of seems like that's a thing with her. She's reminds me a lot of, how do you say her name? Neuer? I think it's just Noir, but it's spelled differently, so I don't know. And I'm bad at French. Tharja's daughter, from Awakening, who has this, like, split personality, weird stuff going on. I don't think Marianne's quite that wacky, but I think she's, like, got something. She's got a mystery crest, that's right. So she also probably has some kind of disorder similar to Lysithea, but it's one that just, like, makes her fly into a berserker rage. And so I think she was responsible in, like, accidentally, but still in some sense responsible for her being, I don't remember if her parents are dead, but, like, at the very least having to be moved to a different house or something. So she evidently feels some guilt for that, but yeah, I think she's gonna finally snap and, like, run away from her adoptive father, who's not her real dad and doesn't understand her. And then just like go really punk. And yeah, that's where I'm coming from with this. I think I just have for a really long time wanted them to go with like a punk Pegasus Knight. The Pegasus Knights are always really like, cute and dainty, and they're very like, I had to go back and delete all of the line art on this because I did it on the wrong layer. But yeah, I mean, the Pegasus Knights that we've seen have been very much inspired by the magical girl aesthetic, and that's sort of what they've always just gone for with it. Marianne, I realized, doesn't have to be a Pegasus Knight. I actually tried her as a Pegasus Knight, and it didn't work out that well, but they really push her riding and flying skills and liking animals and stuff, and so I don't know if that's like her default class or what, but at any rate, like, I associate her with the Pegasus, even if it's not her current class in my playthrough. But I think it's because I had her do the group task with riding, because she, like, when I put her and Claude on that group task, they, like, aced it every time. Yeah, I mean, I have that Pegasus association in my head, but I just think, yeah, like a rebellious Pegasus Knight would be fun. You'd think, like, if you had a character who did want to run away from home and, like, start anew and get away from their overbearing parents or whatever, like, having a pet that can literally fly you anywhere would be, like, a pretty good thing for that. So yeah, that's my prediction for her. So Ignatz is next. And I can't pretend this is anything but just complete absurdity. So this is not my actual guess for, I mean, if it is, it would be amazing, but it's not my actual guess for where they're going with him. But I was thinking about it, I was brainstorming, and I had the realization of, like, so he paints, right? And that connected to some memory in my mind, like in my library of random facts, that Bob Ross was once a drill sergeant, like, before he did the joy of painting. And a lot of people bring up that fact because it's like, oh wow, that's really incompatible. Like, you wouldn't guess that by looking at him. And a lot of Ignatz's character so far is like, his parents want him to go into the military, but he just wants to paint. So, yeah, basically he's just, well, you'll see. Anyway, I really like Ignatz. Any artist character I'm gonna kind of, have an affinity for. It's funny because I keep thinking of Ford, who is also a knight who paints, but it's, like, not a big deal. But I kind of like this more, I guess, serious take on it, because it's very clear that they wanted to build a character who was going to be, I guess, relatable, or have kind of similar issues to what a lot of young people, especially going to school, are experiencing. Like, they want to follow their passion, but they're concerned that it might be incompatible with a lucrative career or whatever their parents want them to do, or things like that. So, and it's, I think, it's done in a way that's not overly, like, cliche, I don't think. I think the fact that he's very loyal and like dutiful son kind of character it works well with that. Because if it's just like I want to be an artist, but my dumb parents are making me do this, like, it just kind of begs the question, like, you don't really seem to really have any attachment to your parents, so why are you even, like, if you're this mad, just rebel already. Why is it even a big issue? And I get why it's a big issue with kids, like, in real life, because you don't have that much control. But, like, with characters in fiction, it just kind of seems like, get over it, you know? Like, I don't know, it comes across as shallow, but they really play his kind of conflicted motivations well, and, like, his loyalty versus his passion, and stuff like that. It feels, it's a great, like, they took something that would have just otherwise been like a tacked on character quirk in, like, the 3DS games, and fleshed it out into, like, let's really dive into this, and let's look at, like, what are some struggles that artists have, and actually go into it. And so yeah, the Bob Ross thing obviously is a joke, but I like kind of the design itself obviously is a joke, but the vibe, I think, is that I think is at least a genuine prediction, because, you know, with everything, all this crazy stuff going on around him, I do feel like he'd be the character who tried to maintain some, maybe not optimism, but tried to find little spots of positivity in the mess, because he's already used to living, like, not a double life necessarily, but, like, having to negotiate that sense of contradiction. So this speaking of contradiction, do you like how I'm getting into, like, in-depth character analysis while this complete nonsense is happening on screen in front of you? Yeah, so I think the whole kind of the vibe of being the, I don't know, a ray of sunshine, I guess, a happy little tree, in amidst all this tragedy, I think is, yeah, that's kind of where I see him going. The other thing is, like, in contrast to what I talked about with Raph, Ignatz is already just in a place where he's, like, he's so neurotic and worried about everything, and, like, also simultaneously seems to have a sense of maturity that a lot of the characters don't have yet. I just don't know where else they would go with him. He reads like more of a static character to me. And that's not a bad thing. It's, you need some characters who are more stable like that. And maybe stable is a better word for it than static. Static kind of has a negative connotation, but, you know, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you need some characters who, if every character just, like, radically changes from one part to the next, it's super chaotic, and it doesn't, like, it's too much. You don't, it also kind of homogenizes all the characters. If everybody changes radically, then, you know, it just gets boring, it gets dull. So you do need some of those characters who don't change all that much. And I like the idea that he's, like, outwardly successful at kind of what he was worried about. Like, he puts all this energy into worrying about, oh, I can't be an artist and a knight, and then it's like, yeah, you can. It's not that big a deal. Ford did it. So, yeah, anyway, that's where I see him going. I'm working on Leonie right now, and I haven't gotten to talk about her yet, as I've been sketching her, but it's pretty simple. I just, it's funny because, like, I started drawing this, and I did not realize until, like, even at this point, I think after I drew the face paint, it still hadn't occurred to me, and then, like, a little bit later it occurred to me, she's Princess Mononoke, like, I basically just copped that design completely, and I was thinking, like, oh, she's gonna be, like, Monster Hunter, and she's gonna be, like, Link from Breath of the Wild and stuff, and I wasn't even making that connection, but yeah, so as I feel like it's pretty simple and obvious from this design, but I think Leonie's going to go off the grid and just live in the wilderness, but like also be kind of literally a monster hunter. If it seems like monsters are roaming free and they're becoming more prevalent, like 5 years from now, it's just going to be there's just going to be monsters everywhere. Like, so you need monster hunters in this world. And, you know, after the time skip, if that continues to be a problem, which clearly it's going to be, so, yeah, she, like, lives in the wilderness and fights monsters and, you know, protects the villagers, and, she's sort of like the reverse side of the coin of, Lorenz. Like, they're doing kind of the same things, but, like, very different aesthetics. So yeah, I really like the idea of Leonie using all of her skills, like survivalist skills, they're not quite survivalist skills yet. They're more like, I don't know, life hacks right now. But they're gonna develop into survivalist skills, and she'll be really adept at living out in the wilderness and using, one might say, crafting weapons from parts of monsters. So this also is very consistent with her presence in gameplay, at least for me, because she is just... I've had to, like, sit her out more often than other characters because she's too powerful. She is both still gaining levels really easily, but also is just, like, just doing way too well. Way too many crits to, you know, it just... She's that character. She's basically a Jagan at this point, like... and became so very early on, which makes sense because she's kind of already a little more on the mature side of the characters that we have on this team. So yeah, I said I would go back and fix Raphael. That's what I was doing there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess if there is a team mom, she's kind of the team mom. But yeah, so she just seems a little more competent and a little more, I mean, she really plays up that she worked with your dad. It's like the one kid in your class who got an internship with somebody and they just won't shut up about it. Like, you know, yes, we get it. Oh my gosh, it's not that big a deal. Like, you don't have a job yet. Calm down. But no, I like Leonie. And she, you know, she puts her money where her mouth is. She's really competent in gameplay. From what I can tell, at least, I don't know. Maybe she's really not a good unit and I'm just super basic or whatever. I don't know, whatever. From my perspective, she's really good. So, I feel like that should be reflected, in her post-time skip design. Anyway, I'm coloring stuff now, so yeah. I guess this is the part where I can go back to talking about the game as a whole. Which, yeah, it's pretty excellent. It's kind of unbelievably excellent. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, I could be. This game is emotionally ripping me apart, but I think a lot of that, again, is, like, my weird expectations getting, like, shuffled in weird ways based on what people tell me or don't tell me, and so I admit that I'm just kind of a wreck with this sort of thing. But the fact that it is really engaging from a dramatic perspective is great, because it's doing a lot of I mean, it's taking a lot of risks. It's doing a lot of stuff that we haven't really seen with the series, but at the same time, it's familiar. It's the perfect mix of old and new, and familiar and fresh. And, like, have been so many times where the characters, I've been like, oh, that's just like this other character from the series. Like, to the point where it's really, really, really close, and really almost, like, just, you're doing the same thing exactly as this other character. One example that comes to mind is Claude and, Lynn, actually. Like, he at one point I got a support where he talked a little bit about his parents and his backstory and stuff, and I was kind of putting the pieces together, and I realized, like, yeah, his backstory is literally the exact same backstory as Lynn. So, but like what it seems like they're doing with that character and the other elements that they've put into the mix with him, obviously he's a completely different character than Lynn ended up being, but that one element is very similar. And so it's a really good, I think what this game is really good at is mixing these elements in a way that results in a fresh story and fresh characters. And then there's influences from other media too, you can see it, you know, but it's not, like, it's not used in a way where it's just like, oh, this thing, remember this thing? Like, here's Arthur, he's just like All Might from My Hero Academia. Have you seen that show? Well, it's a popular show, you guys. We made a character who looks just like, you know. It's like, it feels like these were their own characters first, this was its own story first, and, like, the influences are organic. They're not just tacked on because it's a popular thing. And yeah, if it seems like I don't have a tremendous amount of patience for the 3DS games, I shouldn't say that. I liked Awakening and I liked Echoes, and so process of elimination. But like I don't know. I'm not going to be shy about that. I don't like Fates. I don't like the direction that it took. If you like Fates, I feel like it's insanity that every video has to say this when they express a negative opinion, but, like, I don't think less of you as a person. I have lots of friends who love Fates. It's fine. And they even love it for shallow reasons. Like, it's fine. I don't think less of them as people, you know, but it's something that I was not a fan of the direction that took the series, and I think that Three Houses has really recalibrated it, and it's not, like, it's not completely, you know, well, we just need to go back to classic Fire Emblem and make everything like Kaga did it, and I don't think Kaga's in the right either. From what I've heard about his games, like, he's sort of fallen off of that auteur, you know, going a little bit too off the rails, and, like, maybe betraying a little bit more about parts of him that we didn't need to super know about, in the name of being, you know, artistic. Like, the Kaga games have a lot of elements of, like, young girls being sold into slavery and stuff like that, and it's like, it's if it happens once, okay, but if it keeps happening over and over again, it's like, okay, buddy, yeah, like, maybe don't put this in your games. So yeah, I am not by any means, I don't even like or prefer the Kaga games in general. I like the mid-series games. I like the you know, Elite, Magville, Tullius, that era. But whatever my nostalgia for that or my affinity for that is, I really like doing this, by the way. I was just, it was kind of neat, actually, because I felt a little more liberated to do a landscape and to, like, experiment with color a little bit. Because it's just like, oh, this is just going to be a little background Bob Ross painting. And it actually turned out really good. So I did not watch an actual Bob Ross tutorial video to do this one. It was just sort of on the fly, but I really liked how it turned out. Anyway, I don't have a ton of time left here to discuss this, but long story short, I'm really happy with the direction that Three Houses went. I think it's a great way to take the series in a fresh direction while still, like, I think they finally managed to hit on both the audience that came in with Awakening and the audience that has been with the series for a long time, either from the very beginning or, like, since Smash Brothers Melee, and since, like, Binding Blade or the Elite games. I think they've managed to do both, and it does feel fresh, and they have done a lot of new things with it and taken it in a lot of new directions, and none of them feel unwarranted. It feels like what I hoped it would be, which is the doing for Fire Emblem what Breath of the Wild did for Zelda, which is really fittingly breathe some fresh life into it, and really set it out as like the big, Switch entry in the series. Like the Switch has kind of represented really big, important outings for a lot of these series, and kind of the biggest and the best of each of the series. And so Fire Emblem has definitely lived up to that. Three Houses has lived up to that for Fire Emblem. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm really curious to see how it goes. I don't know where it's going to go, which is great. And part of that is because I've happened to be spoiled on basically every other FE game that I've played, but also just like I genuinely don't really, like, my expectations are very fluid, as you can see, because I got pretty jokey with a lot of this, but on the other hand, it's all based in something I could kind of see them doing. None of it is totally like off the wall ridiculous. There's reasoning behind all of these. So, while I don't necessarily think that these exact predictions are going to come true, little bits and pieces I could feel confident in saying might come true. And more than anything, I'm looking forward to being surprised and seeing where it goes. So thanks for tuning in, and I really appreciate you sticking with me here, and maybe I will do the other houses if you liked this. Maybe I'll do them. Let me know. Tell me what you think I should do. Don't tell me like what you think design wise I should do, because I want it to be as pure a process as possible. But and also please don't say if any of these were accurate or inaccurate. I want it to just be, again, I want to, this was an exercise of I'm playing the game blind, and I just want to kind of like spitball some thoughts about where I think the characters are going to go. But please do not confirm or deny any of it. Like I beg you, do not tell me where it's going. Let it be a surprise, please. I may even post this after I already find out. But also, I'm really impatient, and I really like getting attention on the internet, so that's probably not the case. I'm probably going to post it right away. But anyway, regardless, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me. I know I'm very long-winded. I really tried to speed it up as much as possible, so I super appreciate it. Maybe if you liked this, check out my Fire Emblem video, which is older, and so the art's not as good, but it's a similar concept, and you'll see what I did with it if you watch the video. So I'd love to do more of these. I'm really trying to find the time and the energy to do it, so practicing like this is good, and I like doing it. And another thing I like is talking a lot, and I should stop because it's the end of the video. So everybody have a nice day, and goodbye.